Hello all of you green thumbs. I'm in the beautiful subtropical rainforest here in Queensland, Australia, and I wanted to make a different video today of my thoughts and something that I've been wrestling with at the moment. And if you guys are new to my channel or have been following for a while, I love growing food and farming. It's probably my biggest life passion. And in my YouTube description, one of the things I say is learning to grow food in a way that is closest to how nature works. And I've always tried to get inspiration from nature, hence why I'm going on a walk, because I've heard this great quote, and it says that sometimes a tree can teach you more about life than a book ever can. And I think that is so true, because I think there's this lost idea that we are a part of nature. We're not separate. We are nature. And so I think it's really important to return back to who we are. And it sounds a bit woo-woo, but that's what I believe, and I think it's really important. And so one of the things, as I was saying, is wrestling with at the moment is how can we farm in a way that is closest to how nature works? And to do this, I'm going to flip the camera, because if I keep looking at myself back and forth, I'm going to lose my mind. So I'm just going to flip this. And just quickly, it is absolutely beautiful out here. It is so peaceful. And there's all these wonderful statues. It's a little statue garden walk. So yeah, trying to find a way to farm that is closest to how nature works. And my thinking started walking through forests like this where I live, and realizing that this forest only exists like this because of the amount of rainfall, the humidity, the elevation, the pests, the temperature, all these things create these conditions. So this rainforest here is in perfect harmony with the earth. It exists because of the conditions that it was in. If this area was 1,000 feet higher, it would be a completely different landscape. Or if it was surrounded by mountains, or if it was further away from the beach, everything begins to change. And with farming, I feel like there is this big disconnect between what the landscape looked like originally and how it is being farmed. So for those of you that don't know, natural, like farmland that you see with monoculture crops, which just basically means one crop, or cows grazing on grass, and people see the grass and they go, oh, it's so green and happy. And I think grass-fed cattle is a step in the right direction, because they're not grain-fed. Most cows are grain-fed in big feedlots, very unnatural, very unhealthy. And so I think grass-fed cattle, grass-finished, is a huge step in the right direction. But I believe that the ultimate goal should be to get the land to what it originally looked like. And so as you guys can see here, there are so many different layers in this forest. There are the big overstory trees, they're called. So these big hardwood trees. You've got understory trees, shrubs everywhere. You've got palms, climbers. You've got these types of ferns. This is a staghorn fern. Understory, all these things popping up, grasses. There is so much happening in here. And in farming, so farming with cattle, which is one of the biggest in the world, biggest farming enterprises, that is only one layer, grass. That is the only layer. And so you've taken out all of this, and even if you live in a very dry area where you only have trees and a few shrubs compared to this subtropical area, you are still missing a lot of those layers that a forest has. And so you are not getting as close to what your landscape looked like originally. You are isolating one part of the landscape. And so one of my dreams is to have a farm that has trees on it that I can sell for timber, or fruit trees, nut trees, medicinal trees, all these different things, and getting creative with how I farm so it's closest to what the area I'm in looked like originally. And they've also done studies in what's called a silvopasture system. So silvo meaning trees, and pasture meaning grass. So you're basically combining cattle on grass with timber trees. So you've got two different enterprises. You've got beef and timber. And they've found that if you get the spacing for the trees right, so they're not too close, they're not too far apart, you actually increase the productivity of the grass. And from my understanding, that's due to the carbon cycle. So trees hold an insane amount of carbon. They're bringing all of this from the ground up into the sky. That is all carbon, right? And so these trees hold a lot of carbon, and they also drop a lot of carbon back onto the soil, which feeds the mycorrhizal fungi. There's a whole party going on in there in the soil. There's an entire network breaking that down. And so what you're doing with just grass, you've cut out that whole carbon element. You just have one thing going on. But whereas if you have trees, they're bringing that carbon from deep within the ground, bringing it up, dropping it back down, and cycling it. And so you're actually increasing the soil quality and improving the grass health, which then impacts your cows. You have healthier, fatter cows, which is great. And also, guys, I'm trying not to ramble here too much because I'm so passionate about this. And if what I'm saying doesn't make sense, or you think I need to slow down, please tell me, because I want to try and make videos about things that I'm really passionate about. And so I'm trying to just slow myself down a bit. So what I'm trying to say is, I think the ultimate goal of farming, and I think farming is so important because everyone relies on it 3 times a day. I think the ultimate goal should be to try and get the land closest to how it originally looked. And this is the tricky thing, because humans, we have needs, right? We need money, if we're being honest. We need money. We need food. And we need it consistently and quickly. And so it's nice to just say, oh, let's get the landscape to exactly how it looked before, but also we need to be realistic. It's good to be idealistic, but we need to be realistic as well, and say, how can we get food and how can we make this financially viable? And so I think we've got to get creative with how we find different sources of income and not putting all of our eggs in one basket. So instead of just selling beef, we sell timber and fruit and nuts and anything else you guys can think of that could be a more natural system. Drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And also, I understand that some people just want cows on grass, and like I was saying before, that is a huge step in the right direction, because most of the beef that we eat worldwide comes from feedlots, and feedlots are an awful place for animals. They're designed to basically make them obese and fatten them up as quickly as possible. So, yep, it feeds the world, but not in a very sustainable, healthy way. And so I think that should be the goal, to try and work towards getting closer to nature, planting trees, planting fruit trees, because it makes me sad to imagine how this would be cleared. And this is how most forests are cleared, from my understanding, is they have 2 bulldozers with a giant chain, and each buckle on the chain is like, the size of like a beach ball, I think. And it basically just drags along the landscape and just cuts down everything in its path so that it can become pasture. And that's sad, because this landscape is perfectly adapted and is the way it is because of the conditions that it's in. And so you're clearing that, making way for grass. And sure, the grass might grow amazing because you've got a lot of rainfall here, obviously, a lot of plants grow, but that's not what it's meant to be. Where are the animals going to live? Where are the birds going to live? You've got no trees, you've definitely got no birds. So that's my spiel. And if you guys have any thoughts about that, there's a lawnmower over there, so I'm going to do a quick U-turn. But if you guys have any thoughts about that, or anything that you think any thoughts that you think that could make farming better and more sustainable, please drop a comment, because I actually love reading your guys' comments and hearing different thoughts. because like it says in the YouTube description, I want to learn as much as I can about farming in a way that is closest to how nature works. And nature is definitely beautiful, guys. It is, I forget to appreciate it enough. So thanks for watching if you've made it this far, and yeah, I'll try and make more videos like this of my thoughts, because I enjoy it. I find it a good creative outlet. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.